Well, hello, what's going on, everybody? My name is Jeremy Branch, and I am here to share my thoughts on SummerSlam 2025. As far as my, kind of existing audience goes, I know that wrestling ain't for everybody, especially on the heels of things that happened over the weekend that I was interested in talking about. And hopefully, some of you that are WWE fans find your way over to this channel and want to join in the conversation. I started watching wrestling later in life, which is weird. And in fact, pretty recently, it was like 2023 Royal Rumble, and a good buddy Jonathan was like, "Man, you got to pay attention to what's going on WWE." And I was like, "Do I? Do I really?" I I didn't really get the appeal for a long time. Thought it was kind of silly, for obvious reasons, and it is kind of silly. That said, as I started to kind of delve into it and learn that the leader of the bloodline, this heel faction, was Roman Reigns, and Roman was from Pensacola, and then his cousins Jimmy and Jey Uso are from Pensacola, I started to get a little more interested. And when I was a teenager, maybe 17, 16, 17, I had a friend named Ian who was like a big fan of WWE. So I watched a little bit of Attitude Era in the middle of the night over at his house, I guess, in like the playback, the second time it came on. We were up doing God knows what at crazy hours in the morning and watching wrestling. So I kind of always appreciated it a little bit, ironically, I think, because it is a soap opera, right? Really and truly, it's silly storylines involving interpersonal conflict. There's like the sports side of it as well, which is, you know, it's easy for people to kind of be like, "Oh, wrestling's fake." This is all stuff that, like, if you're not familiar with the culture, you might think a lot of wrestling fans don't realize that what they're watching is fake. But as somebody who enjoys entertainment, I mean, everything from like movies to series to anime. I like storytelling. I like reading books. I'm okay with fiction. It's interesting that people hold this certain industry to that standard while also totally being fine with consuming all sorts of other, you know, material that's fake. So, all that said, just to kind of set this up, that I started watching not too long ago. So, you got to take my opinions with a grain of salt and understand that, like, I'm not expert historian in the history of wrestling, but my perspective is one of somebody who kind of casually came into it a couple years ago, has since got a little bit more enthusiastic about it, and now from week to week, I check out Raw and Netflix almost every week. If I don't catch it, I'll watch the highlights the next day, and I will watch the PLEs, formerly known as pay-per-views, right? And what pay-per-views, used to be is you would rent them almost like a boxing match, and nowadays you get them free on your streaming services. But it's weird because Raw comes on Netflix, SmackDown comes on, I think, TNT. I'm never able to catch SmackDown, but I will watch like clips the next day. And then the PLEs, the monthly, big events, they come on Peacock. I don't know if there's like a consolidation happening in the future, but for right now, it's kind of spread out all over the place. And it's a lot of content to consume. It's a lot of television. Each show is like, I think 3 hours. You're looking at like 2.5 to 3 hours on Raw, 2.5 to 3 hours. I think SmackDown is 2 hours now, but it was 3 hours. And then you've got these monthly PLEs that are like 3 to 4 hours, somewhere in the middle. And so it gets to be a lot. And as somebody who's casually a fan of wrestling, I enjoy it, but I don't watch every single bit of it. I feel like that would just be overkill because you're talking about like 12 hours in some weeks, right? So I kind of pick my battles, but I always enjoy the PLEs. And over this weekend was what's called SummerSlam. I'm talking to those of you as if like that don't know wrestling. I'm sure that everybody else that is watching this, if you're in the chat right now, if you're that one person watching this, what's up? I know it's a little early for a stream, but I wanted to jump on while I had a moment to talk about it. But so SummerSlam is like the hot WrestleMania is kind of what the internet wrestling community calls it. It's one of the biggest events of the year. And this year was the first time they'd ever turned it into a 2-night event. So now we're not talking about 2 episodes and then a 4-hour PLE. We're talking about 2 episodes and then 2 2-hour PLEs. So you're up to what, 16 hours of wrestling content? I don't know, give or take 15 hours of wrestling content, which is a lot. That said, this weekend was pretty enjoyable. It was broken up into 2 nights, and the big conversation that everybody's having all centers around night 2, which brings me to kind of my first observation about 2 nights of wrestling for these PLE events. And because of the way that the media apparatus is set up and reactionaries, they want to be able to cover everything. By doing a 2-night event, you're kind of ensuring that people are going to have forgotten what happened on Saturday night by the time Monday morning rolls around. And all of the good wrestling that happened over the weekend was, unfortunately for many, completely undermined by a 5-minute appearance at the very end of the main event on night 2, which in itself was incredible. Hey, how we doing? Harold MC, it's way better than Mania this year. Could not agree more. That main event between Cena and Cody Rhodes was like, it didn't even feel like the same 2 people fighting, because that Mania 41 was such a deflating experience. To back up a little bit, you might find this interesting. I started watching wrestling at some point in Cody's pursuit of the title from Roman, right? Bloodline was still dominating and Cody was telling his story. And I feel like I caught one of the best arcs in the history of wrestling. Again, this is just from the perspective of somebody who hasn't watched a whole lot of wrestling, but I feel like the story told of Cody pursuing and then finally getting that title from Roman after losing at the previous WrestleMania was incredible. The catharsis felt so authentic, and to see all of the people from the team of WWE come out and kind of celebrate with Cody on this big victory of him winning the title that he always wanted Dusty to be able to see him win, because Dusty never won it. I think, again, I'm not a historian on this stuff, but the way that like Samantha Irving was reacting and the way that everybody just seemed so happy for him, like as a viewer, that was such a great payoff. It almost was like, when I think about the MCU and how like Endgame was kind of the swan song, and if you would have went out on that note, it would have been perfection. I feel like Cody winning was the end of that movie. Like Cody's story was told and then it was done. And then what do you do with him? And that's been a tough thing. And for me, I feel like heels are better champions, so that you got somebody that can be the underdog that's chasing it. So since Cody's gotten the title, I haven't been as invested in his story. When it first started out, I thought Cody was mad corny. Like he was not interesting to me. I was a big Roman guy. I like the heels a little bit better, generally speaking, though at this point I kind of like everybody a lot. I should go back and watch the Bloodline saga. It's on YouTube. It's amazing. I will check that out. Absolutely. A big fan of the Bloodline. So I think that sounds like interesting stuff. I've gone back and watched a bit of documentaries. Like I just watched Unreal, watched the McMahon stuff. I haven't watched a lot of like Dark Side of the Ring, but I'm kind of filling in the gaps in my internet historian, wrestling fandom. So I would definitely check that out. That sounds like something I would enjoy. But ever since, Cody became a face, it's been a little bit harder for me to be invested in that story, but there's been so many other cool things going on that it's like, okay, whatever, we can back burner that in favor of all of this other stuff. Like, the Evolution PLE last month, I think it was last month, it might've been the month before, incredible. I feel personally that the women are oftentimes more fun to watch. And obviously, like aesthetically, like they're, all gorgeous and stuff, and that doesn't hurt. But I also feel like they have something to prove. Like where a lot of the men in wrestling, it's like a given that, like that they're the draw. The women have to like earn their spots. They have to like fight for it. And I thought almost all of the matches at Evolution were freaking awesome. I mean, there were so many good ones. But yeah, let me talk a little bit about SummerSlam. So that brings us to a couple months back when John Cena ended up coming back to wrestling for his final year, his retirement run. And not only that, he started off as a babyface. That's what everybody loves Cena as, I guess. The same way I think Cody is corny, I think John Cena is hella corny. And I wasn't watching when he was like, you know, had the big run that everybody loved Cena, but I thought he was real goofy. So it didn't do much for me, him coming back as a babyface. I like him as an actor, and I've liked a lot of the movies he's been in, but I think he's weird, dude. Like, I watched a little bit of Total Bellas and was like, oh, this guy's like a straight up freak. But when he turned heel, I was like, that's really cool. I liked Rock as being a heel. That was really cool. So there are definitely like aspects of John Cena that I enjoy more than others, but I thought his heel run was great. A lot of people didn't. Again, what do I know, right? I'm like a new mark, so everything's cool or exciting to me. I know that there are a lot of people that have been watching this stuff for their entire lives that have a little bit more personal investment in it or a perspective that I lack. So again, this is just my perspective on this stuff, but SummerSlam night 1 was on Saturday night. And Cardi B was the host of the event, which I find hosts to be a weird position. And when I say weird, it just doesn't seem like they do anything. Like, WWE has a long and storied history with working and collaborating with celebrities and musicians, all the way back to like Cyndi Lauper, Mr. T, all of that kind of stuff. So it's not unheard of to have a celebrity host. What do they do? Like, what do they bring to the event? I don't really know. She came out and was like, I like Randy Orton. Welcome to SummerSlam. Yeah. And that was it. And then she just disappeared. Like, night 2, there was no Cardi B. It was literally just that one little thing. So it kicks off the event with Roman and Jay versus Braun and Bronson. And as I alluded to, big Bloodline fan. Roman and Jay are like hometown heroes in a way. So I'm always excited to watch them fight. I know people have, you know, varying feelings about Jay. I think he's very entertaining, even though he does get gassed before he even gets done with his like introduction or whatever. Like, what do you call it when they walk out? Yeah, I guess introduction. That would be what that's called. So, but Roman and Jay are fighting Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed. And Braun and Bronson are 2 of 3 members of Seth Rollins' recent faction that was created to kind of reshape the future of wrestling or whatever. And Seth was out with an injury. The dirt sheets were pretty quick to be like, it's probably not an injury, but we thought it was an injury. He was gone. So there's this big match between Jay and Roman and then Braun and Bronson. And it was fun. Like, I like Braun a lot. He is entertaining. The way he was kind of like yelling at Roman throughout it was a cool kind of character thing. I know he's like Scott Steiner's son or Rick Steiner's son. I think Scott Steiner. So while I'm not super familiar with those characters, I definitely remember Scott from WWE, like Attitude Era stuff. He had like the bleach blonde hair, and I don't know if that's the. Let me know in the chat which one he's a son of. But I enjoy him as a character. He's got a lot of intensity. He's also just a beast. He's got the best spear in the game. Like, he will hit those ropes, and supposedly he can like run like 25 miles per hour across the ring, something crazy. And then Bronson, and this was funny. Braun and Bronson, it gets confusing, but Bronson had stolen Roman's shoes at the previous event, and he was wearing them around his neck like the Shula Fala, which funny because it's a play on the Ula Fala, which is like the tribal chief. They don't wear a crown. They wear this like necklace in the Samoan culture. So the Shula Fala was a kind of funny little play on that. There was a couple great spots in this match. I feel like the intensity of the audience wasn't quite there yet. Like, they weren't warmed up. It was still light outside. The ice hadn't been broken yet, right? I think a lot of like the VIPs and stuff show up as the night goes on as well. So it just didn't quite have like the energy that I would have liked it to, but it was a good match. And Roman does this crazy dive over the top rope, and he goes right over Braun and Bronson, and they like caught the very, very back end of it, but it was a crazy suicide dive. At the end of the match, Braun goes to spear Jay. Roman, like a freaking hero, dude. He was the bad guy for so long, and he was so terrible to Jay, but like a hero, eats the spear, which allows Jay the opportunity to count out Bronson and win the match. So Jay ended up winning for the team. They come out the victors of that. My overall thoughts on it is just that it was a good start to kind of set the pace for the events to follow. I feel like I want to see more of Braun and Bronson, and kind of the way that I feel about Cody not on the chase for the title, Roman without the title, and Roman especially without the manager, Paul Heyman. I feel like his character is lacking something, and he's a superstar, and he's got a lot of like fans. So like when he comes out, people are enthusiastic. He gets a lot of energy, but I don't know where he goes in. Like, I don't know what program he's in next. Luckily, he's not there all the time, but I'd be very curious what people think about, like, what do you do with Roman at this point? Because he's been talking about going off to Hollywood ever since I've been watching, but I don't see a lot of people knocking down the doors. I know he's going to be Akuma in the new Street Fighter live action adaptation, and Cody's going to be Guile. The casting in that is super fun. It doesn't sound like a real movie, but I guess we'll have to keep an eye out and see what happens. So the next match on night one was Rodriguez and Perez versus Bliss and Flair. Roxy and what's Rodriguez's name? Raquel Rodriguez are from Judgment Day. They're kind of the bad guy heel faction. They're holding the women's tag team title. What's funny is you got a big little and a big little tag team match, right? You got Rodriguez is like a big woman, and Charlotte's like a big woman, and then Roxanne is little petite, like 5 foot nothing, and then so is Alexa Bliss. So there's the fun dynamics of just the physicality of the tag team match. It was decent. I like both tag teams a lot. I kind of liked the Judgment Day holding the gold because it felt like while Liv is gone, it's kind of interesting to see them thrive without her. And I feel like Roxanne fit into that niche really nicely, and is creating some kind of interesting interpersonal conflict, all that soap opera-y stuff that I was talking about earlier that I really like about it. Solid work all around. Flair and Bliss win, so they become the new women's tag team title holders. And I've liked Charlotte Flair's redemption arc. When she came back from her injury and was kind of trying to like open up to people and share what she'd been going through, and people were just relentlessly booing her, I'm like, man, y'all are some savages. Why are people so mean? I know it's wrestling, like you cheer the people you like, you boo the people you don't, but I don't know what Charlotte did. I haven't been watching it long enough to be like, oh yeah, she sucks. Forget Charlotte, I felt bad for her. I'm like, she's been out injured and she's coming back, and I think she's trying to be a baby face, and people are just going hard on her. And then she had that conflict or that program with Tiffany Stratton, and that didn't do her any favors because she was like going off script and being really mean to Tiffany. And then Tiffany like started bringing up her marriage. It was wild. But so anyways, all that said to say, like, they've been doing some character rehab on Charlotte lately, and they've been featuring her in like this documentary called The Unreal. It's kind of a reality TV series that's on Netflix, to humanize her and to say, like, this is a person. She's the daughter of a legend. She's trying to fulfill this legacy. And I feel like teaming her up with Alexa, who's very pretty and beloved by people, was a good way to rehab her image. They've got like this frenemy thing going on. Can they coexist? And they end up rising to the occasion and taking the titles off of Judgment Day. I thought it was a cool match. nothing that like, set my world on fire. And speaking of matches that didn't set my world on fire, as a big Sami Zayn fan and understanding that there's been this big push for Carrion Cross lately, I was very underwhelmed by Zayn versus Cross. I guess the storyline here is, was Zayn actually a bad person or something? Like, I didn't get it. Like, he Karrion Kross wanted Zayn to admit that he was a liar, and I don't even know what the origin of this story was about. It's like, I mean, we've all told a lie before. I don't know, man. What do you want? What are we trying to get out of this? I couldn't wrap my head around it. And then like Scarlett, who is Karrion Kross's wife and also like, I don't know, the girl in the faction, she presents a pipe and throws it into the ring so that Carrion can beat Sami up with it, but Sami ends up with it, and then he decides he's not going to beat up Carrion with it, even though Scarlett's like saying like, do it, hit my husband with a metal pipe. And I'm like, what is this about? I don't understand. But it was fine. It wasn't a bad match. There wasn't any like crazy botches or anything in it. It just didn't, I don't know, it was decent. And then next we had Tiffany Stratton versus Jade Cargill. Tiffany Stratton is kind of a fan favorite in a lot of ways. And I feel like Jade Cargill is more like a company favorite that they have a lot of faith in, but it doesn't seem like the internet wrestling community is really behind Jade. And I think it's because she's big, she's striking looking, she's got an incredible physique, but she's not like a really great in-ring worker. I don't think, she's got like big person move set. So I don't know. I try not to be super critical about people's in-ring abilities because like, what do I know about it? But when I see her, she doesn't, set my world on fire in the ring. But every time she comes out and does an entrance, like, dang, like she looks like a comic book character. She looks like a superhero. They call her like Storm, and like her silhouette is just crazy. So I get why WWE likes her and wants to push her. But Tiffany is just organically the crowd favorite, even though I don't really care for Tiffany all that much. Like she's all right. She's kind of funny sometimes, but Tiffany ended up winning. And it seemed like I watch other wrestling content from time to time, and it seems like a lot of people were putting a whole lot of stock in whether or not Jade needed to win this match or not. But alas, Stratton retained, got the WWE Women's Championship. Good match. Then this is where we start to get into like kind of the more entertainment side of World Wrestling Entertainment when Jelly Roll and Randy Orton faced off against Logan Paul and Drew McIntyre. Drew is one of my favorite wrestlers. He is so freaking endlessly entertaining to watch. Randy is, they call him the legend killer, but he is definitely like a veteran of the business. He's really enjoyable to watch, like a consummate professional, getting up there a little bit in age. But Jelly Roll, the acclaimed country hip hop artist, I don't know a lot of his music, but he's not a wrestling fixture, though he has been watching or been a part of the television program for the last couple of weeks now, building up to this event where he fights Logan Paul, who like Logan Paul's like, you're an outsider here. The irony being that a lot of people look at Logan Paul as being an outsider. Hey, what's going on? Barry Skywalker, how we doing? So it's very much in the WWE house style to bring in celebrities from outside of the world of wrestling to participate in matches. What's less often is that those people are good. Like I saw Bad Bunny at Puerto Rico and he was incredible. He fought Damian Priest and it was like an awesome match. I didn't have high hopes for Jelly Roll, but I thought what they did with it was pretty entertaining. It was kind of fun. And Logan Paul, look, if you could summarize night one of SummerSlam in one picture, it would be, I think it would be Logan Paul going over the top in the craziest frog splash you've ever seen. He like tucks and then opens up and he's like a flying squirrel and he just goes through the table where Jelly Roll is down like on the commentator, like down on the ground. And I was like, holy shit, man. And a lot of people have issues with Logan Paul. understandably so, right? Like, who am I to judge? But at the same time, I feel like you got to give him his flowers because he is really, really athletic. Really athletic. Fun to watch, I think. Fun to be a bad guy. People hate him, and that, to me, means he's doing his job well, I think. So, yeah, I thought that was a really fun match. Got a big kick out of Jelly Roll's performance. He gets beat down. The medics and managers or whatever are kind of ushering him away. Randy's getting double teamed by both Logan and Drew, and Jelly looks back and he's like, I can't let this go down without, rallying and getting in there for the fight. So he goes back one more time, and of course he didn't win. He had to lose the match because that's the way that it would go down. Now, granted, from what I hear, a lot of times celebrities weren't willing to eat the pins or take big bumps or any of this stuff, but it feels to me like Jelly Roll knew the assignment and that he wanted to do what was best for the business, and that included him, losing and but looking good in defeat. I feel like people are respecting him coming out of it, which is great. And then the main event was CM Punk versus Gunther. And Gunther is the quintessential wrestling heel. All the way back to the beginning, the foreign heel. If you want to get heat on a heel, make them from another country, A little bit of Djangoism, or a little xenophobic aspect of wrestling where it's like, oh, they got an accent, they're the bad guys. It's fine. It's not that way always now, but I feel like Gunther kind of reminds me of Ivan Drago from Rocky 3. Not that he looks like him. Actually, Cody Rhodes looks more like him than Gunther does. But so you've got and he's great. He's so good on the mic. He's always really enjoyable to listen to. And I'm not such a big fan of this particular style of wrestling, as opposed to, and we'll talk about it on night 2, something like Io and Rhea and Naomi, which to me was like chef's kiss in the ring, just super fun to watch. But I get the appeal of it. It's more dramatic wrestling storytelling. There's a lot of big chops where they're just smacking each other, and Gunther's literally bleeding at one point from all these chops that him and Punk are putting on each other. And it was a 30-minute match, and it's just, Punk getting worked over 80% of the time, just getting beat down and beat down and beat down to an inch of it all being over, But he rallies and he comes back and he ends up winning this match. And it's an incredible moment because for those of us that have been paying attention to things like Unreal and paying attention to why Punk came back to the WWE, that he wants the title match at the big pay-per-view. He wanted his WrestleMania match. He wanted to win a big title. He felt like he put in all the time and the work, and that it was basically his time to come because he's not getting younger. And so there's this emotional payoff when he ends up winning it. And then bum, 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 freaking Seth Rollins comes out. His music hits. He's got the Money in the Bank briefcase, which means you can cash in at any time. And he's got the Money in the Bank briefcase, but he's on crutches. And he comes out and he's like, I told you when I got better, I was coming for you, Punk. And Punk's just like, all in the middle of the freaking ring still. And then like Jesus Christ Superstar, Rollins turns around and he puts his arms out like this, and the crutches just kind of fall off to the side. And he's like, and that time's now. And he goes running in and cashes in the briefcase. Beats Punk immediately. I mean, Punk was pretty much out as it was, So I think Punk held the title for 5 minutes or something like that. Got to bask in it just long enough for Rollins to come in and screw him over, which Rollins has massive beef with Punk because of all sorts of stuff we don't have time to get into. But it was a cool match. Like I said, I get the reason why it was impactful in the way that it was to so many people. I was a little bored at certain times throughout it because it's chop, kind of stalk around, good 1 minute, and then chop, and I'm just like, all right, we can pick it up a little bit. That'd be fine with me. But it was good. So overall, though, night 1 was pretty on par with a lot of the PLEs lately, which is to say not all that impressive. They just, I don't know. it's not that I'm not entertained by any of it, and I have a good time watching Raw a lot of times, but other times I'm just like, I don't know. I feel like a lot of times they zig when they should zag. Like if I were booking, which like thank God I'm not, right? But I feel like I would do things so much differently, and they can get so close to the mark and be just headed right towards the bullseye, and then just at the last minute, like, just kind of curve off in some weird direction, and you're like, what? You were you were taking it home. You know what I mean? You were going just in the perfect direction, and then all of a sudden you didn't. So yeah, night one, not great, not the worst, but definitely didn't leave me like, wow, I've got to, wrestling is the best art form in the world. Like WrestleMania 40 and other times that I'm just like, this is such a cool medium. Night two, this was Sunday night, and it kicks off with what was easily one of the highlights of the weekend, one of my favorite matches. Granted, I am a big fan of all three of the wrestlers involved with it. It was Naomi, who is holding the, I don't remember what title she has. Oh man, there's a couple of them, but she's got a title. She's facing off against Rhea Ripley, who is just top tier, super entertaining, just a badass. And then Io Sky. And Io Sky, I really do believe, is MVP material. She is WWE's most impressive in-ring performer of anybody. And I would stake a good bit on that. I guess depending on the style you like, right? For me, she's just so dynamic. She is a walking sizzle reel. She will do the most crazy high-flying spots. She's like death-defying, super acrobatic, always impressive. Love Io Sky. It's tough when you don't speak English as your native language to really get over as a wrestler. Like her whole character is kind of, and that's it, unfortunately. And she's really cute and like likable. She's got a good aura, a good energy about her. And when she's, doing her entrance, people are enthusiastic about her. But then, like when you put her on the mic, she is limited by her inability to be able to speak English super fluently. So she's kind of like hit the peak. She's had the title, and it's just tough, and that's unfortunate. But it's also great that she's there. So I'm still super stoked that she's there because she is just phenomenal to watch. And then also they're fighting Naomi, who's like the top heel of Raw right now. And I really like what they've done with her character. I think if I heard correctly, her dad plays her song on guitar coming to the match. Not always, but on this particular match, they had her father come out and like play the guitar line for her theme song, which was cool. And I really like Naomi. Like she's really impressive in the ring. She's fun with her character. I like her as a heel, and she kind of got lost in the sauce when she was in a program with Jade and Bianca. But now that she's doing her own thing, I think she's even more impressive and able to showcase like why she is as good as she is. But the match was awesome. I'm not good at like breaking down play-by-plays because I don't know it inside out like a lot of people do, but there were a lot of times in this match that I was just like, man, this is awesome. A bunch of near falls. There would be times where Rhea was about to pin Io, and then Naomi would snatch her out. Naomi won by basically stealing the pin at the very end after Rhea was about to win for like the 5th time. And it was a cool match. I really enjoyed watching it. I think that all three of them are just superstars for a reason. As far as I would say that match, short of maybe the main event the night before, that was my favorite match other than maybe the Gunther. And no, this was my favorite match up to this point, for sure. The next match was this crazy ladder match. So it was like, I think it was 6 teams involved. Half of these people, because I've never really watched SmackDown, half of these people, I've like maybe seen them before. Like I'm familiar with the Motor City Machine Guns. I know about the Wyatt Six, but I didn't even know who the guy, what's his name, Gacy, was really. Just I knew they all wear masks and stuff, but I didn't really know a whole lot about them other than like their connection to Bray Wyatt, etc. But then there's like Fraxium and DIY, who I am familiar with, Gargano and Ciampa. And then there was Andrade with Rey Fenix. They were awesome. And then it was also Carmelo Hayes and what's his name? Who are also both really good. Carmelo Hayes. No, not Carmelo Hayes. Oops. You see what I did there? That's just bad. Shit. Somebody gonna tell me? Somebody gonna bail me out in the comment section? Let me know when it comes up. Montes Ford and Dawkins, Angelo Dawkins, and they're really, really a good tag team. I feel like Montes Ford has superstar potential. They just don't do a whole lot with him, but he's great. Like, he's a springy dude. He'll be like up on the ropes and hopping up onto the ladder. But this match was crazy. There was so much going on. All of it was very, very entertaining. It was kind of hard to track all of the action because there's so many things happening at once. But as far as just like, hey, you want to see something crazy? Check this out. Because it delivered in that. There was a time when Candice LeRae, who's attached to Gargano from DIY, is like climbing up the ladder in the middle of the ring to get the tag titles. And Gargano accidentally gets pushed over and bumps the ladder, and the ladder goes falling. And Candice, from the very top of the ladder, falls out of the ring from over the third rope and smashes through a ladder bridge that was set up down beneath. Crazy spot. Crazy looking stuff. Just another amazing highlight from the weekend. And all these medics and stuff go out and are checking on her, and it's always hard to know. You're like, man, did she just get hurt? I can't even tell. Because a lot of times when people really get hurt, you look at it and you're like, oh man, that looks like that must have really hurt their ankle. And then it's like, actually their shoulder got broken. I'm like, I don't know what's going on, man. See somebody like, yeah, it's crazy. Like, if you didn't tell me that was the thing that hurt somebody, any of it looks like it could hurt or not. I don't know. But it was an awesome match. There was this one spot where there was like 4 different table spots all at once. This person crashing through over here. This person crashing through over here. It was fun. It was chaos, and it was really enjoyable. Gacy retained with the Wyatt 6. Next, we got Lynch versus Valkyria. That's Lyra Valkyria versus Becky Lynch for the Women's Intercontinental. No DQ, no countout. It was a lot. It was a lot. I really like both of them, and they're clearly both very talented. I've seen them both have incredible matches, but this one was very reliant on Lyra getting her hands bound together with zip ties so that she could do this belly-to-belly press and try to fight her way out from being in this clearly very handicapped position. And that was supposed to be like the crux of the match. Very early on, her hands just slip right out of the restraints. The commentators notice it. They call it. They figure she's going to adjust her plan. She tries to act like her hands are back together. She's just like, oops, no, look, yeah, no, nothing ever happened. Don't worry about it. And then she kind of like had to retie it up. It was a mess. I didn't think it was a good match, and it's unfortunate because I know they can have good matches. But yeah, that one I felt like it was too reliant on this thing that fell apart, and then from there they didn't have anywhere to go. Sucks. Sometimes it happens, right? I don't besmirch them for it. It's just the human element, and sometimes things are not going to go according to plan. Which is kind of wild because in the very next match, they finally lower down the cage. It's been above the stage all weekend for this cage match between Solo and Jacob Fatu. And here's another example of me not always agreeing with the populace on wrestling, because I think Solo was awesome, but Jacob doesn't really resonate with me. WrestleNate. He doesn't really resonate with me in the same way that other wrestlers do, but they're going for the SmackDown US title. And this is like a Bloodline member versus former Bloodline member. I don't know what Solo's new faction is called. There's all these Samoans, and like, I don't know who half of them are. They haven't been around very long, to be fair. But so there's a cage match. Solo's trying to get out. Jacob's dragging him back in. Jacob closes the cage. They go at it for a little bit. All of a sudden, a couple of Solo's goons come running in, and they climb up to the top of the cage, and they handcuff Solo to the very top of the cage, and I'm like, oh, this is bad news. This is like really high risk stuff. He's up there hanging. This is going to be bad. Next thing I know, he's down, handcuffs just dangling, and I'm like, what happened? Like, what? I missed that. What just now happened? After the match, they showed a replay where he broke free, but the cameraman missed it. So again, this is hinged really heavily on this like restraining device, very similar to the one before, and it kind of also botched. And I was just like, oh, that was disappointing. Solo wins and retains, great. But then like Jimmy locked two of the other bloodline guys in the cage with Jacob, I think to like make them look strong in defeat. But I was already kind of like checked out at that point. He does a couple of like crazy back springy body splash. I don't know what it's called. But it's like, it's cool to see a big guy built like that do it. He kind of reminds me like physique wise and hair and everything of Bray Wyatt. Character wise, they're totally different. But you look at a guy like that and you're like, yeah, he's not supposed to move like that. That's crazy. It's impressive. Very impressive. Not my favorite match of the night. Kind of a waste of a cage, if I'm being honest. Because, like, the cage stipulation's kind of dumb anyways. Like, you can just open it up or pinfall inside the cage and it's over. Like, I don't know, make it no DQ or, like, where you have to fight your way out of it by going over. I don't know. It's just, to me, it's a weird premise for a match. After that, we got Dom versus AJ Styles for the Raw Intercontinental Championship title, and this was awesome. I've loved the build to this match. I didn't realize it, but I low-key love AJ Styles as a comedic performer. I don't know if he's ever done it before, but there was a time when Dom needed medical clearance to be able to have a match against AJ. And AJ was always stalking Dom, waiting for that medical clearance. And he goes to beat down Dom at one point. And Dom's like, I got a doctor's note. I got a doctor's note. AJ snatches the note and he looks at it. And he pulls out readers and he puts on the readers and started reading the contract. And it was at that moment that he put on the readers that I was like, man, I really like AJ Styles. This dude is funny. This dude is very, very funny. And it just kept going from there. He'd like be peeking out of the, just behind some bush or something backstage, waiting for Dom to get cleared. I guess this was like a tribute match to Eddie Guerrero in some ways, because 20 years ago was the battle for, not ownership, what do you call it when you like have a kid? Custody battle of Dom between Ray and Eddie, which I did go back and watch that maybe a couple years ago now. My buddy Tristan told me about it. I checked it out. It was very entertaining. But yeah, so AJ comes out in a lowrider, similar, I guess, to one that Eddie used to come out in. There's like people pushing it because ever since Stone Cold ran that lady down in cold blood at the last event he was at, he didn't run her down in cold blood, but ever since Stone Cold accidentally crashed into that lady with the ATV, I think they're very weary about like driving around, so they pushed the lowrider out. But it was a fun match. A lot of like Dom using his smarts because he's a coward and he doesn't want to confront AJ. So he's like kind of weaseling his way around the situation. And at one point, I love this. This was like one of the highlights of the night. Dom unties the padding around the turnbuckle to expose the turnbuckle. He does it so the ref can see. So the ref's like, oh, what the hell? And he goes over to start trying to fix the turnbuckle. And at that point, Dom runs out, grabs a chair from underneath the ring, hops back in, throws the chair at AJ, and then falls down like he just now got laid out with the chair, so that when the ref turns around, he's going to think that AJ should be disqualified for hitting him with the chair. AJ sees this and realizes what's going on, and so he falls out. He grabs the chair, puts it around himself, falls out, kind of starts like twitching like he just now got laid out with this chair. Dom realizes what he's doing. The ref's looking at both of them like, what's going on? And both of them realize like this isn't going to work. The ref's not buying any of this. So they get back up and resume the fight. Dom ends up winning. He ends up outsmarting him with the boot. It was a funny thing where like AJ's got him in a leg lock and Dom's boot comes off. Well, AJ doesn't know what's going on. Dom ends up in possession of the boot, lays AJ out with it. It's funny how some weapons are so much more devastating than others. That's something I've noticed about WWE. It's like you can whack somebody with a crowbar, But if you whack them with the revealed part of a turnbuckle, that's like a heel tactic. It's weird. We'll talk a little bit more about that. But it's like, I guess you're a bad guy if you use some weapons, but other weapons not so much. And then also, if it's a no DQ match, why not just come out there with like a, I don't know, shotgun? Could win the title that way. But yeah, you can't think too much about these things because it's ultimately just about being entertained. This is not realistic stuff, but man, is it fun sometimes. I loved that Dom versus Styles match. It was easily one of my favorites of the weekend. But now we're talking about the main event. And Cody and Cena wrestled at WrestleMania 41, and it was very underwhelming. I think a lot of people started to suspect that Cena just didn't have it in the ring anymore. And then other people are like, dude, Cena never had it in the ring. What are you even talking about? He's terrible at selling. He's not good as a wrestler. He's strong, but he doesn't do a good job kind of constructing matches. So my expectations were already like pretty low. But I would like to believe that even if they had a good match at WrestleMania 41, that I still would have really appreciated this because it was awesome. This was for the undisputed WWE Championship. Rematch between Cody versus John after John had went heel and beat Cody using the belt, the title, to take him out. Again, you can't if you use a belt to take somebody down, you're bad. That's a bad guy move. Anything else is fine. But so Cody didn't go far enough in the last match, and that's what cost him. So he wanted to have a street fight. And then like on Friday night, all of a sudden Cena decided like he's going to be a good guy again. Like he had this weird quick turn back to a face because Cody basically showed him the light, and he did all this going heel just because people wanted to make shocking TV, but he never believed in it anyways. And I was like, oh man, I kind of liked the heel turn. They just didn't do what they were supposed to with it. They didn't follow through to its logical end. But anyways, so this match gets underway, and it just immediately, like, there wasn't a bunch of, I don't know, foreplay to get into it. It just is like right to the action. They're doing big moves. They're going at it. It was impressive. I haven't seen Cena wrestle at that level ever. But again, just been watching it for a couple years. This is the best Cena match I've ever seen. And I think Cody is so good that he can make magic out of not great work from whoever his opponent or partner is, essentially. Because if you look at it like dance, which is something that Cody's daughter thinks that he does for a living, it's really pretty applicable. And so this is dance partner, and Cody is more than willing to let the partner shine and will do work to make them look good. And I think he did a really good job about putting Cena over, even at the cost of his untarnished babyface reputation, because I've never seen Cody get overwhelmingly booed. I've seen Cody get booed. It started happening when he got into this program with Cena, but I've never seen him overwhelmingly get booed until last night. And I was like, man, that is risky business to take your top babyface and make him, in all metrics, like the bad guy of this match. It was crazy. But props to him for doing something different, trying something bold. And it was great. I for a long time wasn't sure that you could get the same kind of stakes out of a babyface versus babyface as you could out of a babyface versus heel. But under the right circumstances, I now feel like it can be even more powerful. And I think a good example of it working is when you think back to Captain America Civil War. Tony was kind of right, and Steve was kind of right. And you didn't really want to see them fight each other. And I know you can like lean towards one side or the other of who's your favorite, but like ideologically, there was a lot of pathos. Seeing them just beating each other to a pulp at the end over this conflict of ideology and their position on Bucky. So that's like face versus face done well. And I feel like this was face versus face done well, where either one of them winning, I think I would have been all right with it. But I think it went the way that it needed to go. And that is that Cody ended up winning. Dude, there was so many cool spots on this, but at one point they're like fighting outside the ring and into the crowd, and then they end up underneath the stage. you lose track of them. You're like, where do they go? What's going on? And then like there's this elevator that elevates Cody onto the stage platform when he does his entrance. And you see it start to rise and there's smoke coming out of it. And then Cena's got Cody like slowly rising out of it in like a fireman carry or fireman press or whatever. And he's got Cody over his shoulders and he walks him all the way back to the ring and he throws him into the ring. Just this awesome feat of strength because Cena is a beast apparently. And he had some really good stamina. He must have been training hard for this match because they went hard for a while. But remember how I said you can use some weapons and it not be heelish, but if you use other weapons, it's heelish? They were beating each other with kendo sticks, with chairs. They're using tables. At one point, Cody throws Cena through like a guardrail, like that security used to partition people off from the ramp where people like walk behind. It's a terrible description, but if you've seen one, you know what I'm talking about. It's like a wire frame. It's got bars through it, and they set it up at like venues so that they can corral people. Cody throws Cena through one of those. They're using everything they can. It's a street fight, and there's nothing questionable about that. But at some point, when you see Cody eyeballing the belt, you're like, oh no, Cody's gonna grab that belt and go heel. Like no, he can grab the crowbar and still be a babyface, but the second he grabs that belt, bad guy. So at one point though, Cody starts like unfixing. I've never seen this before. It was freaking wild. He starts unfixing turnbuckle and the rope. He like dismantles the ring and he takes like the padded turnbuckle. It's got like this metal rod out of the back of it, and he starts whacking Cena with that. And then he takes the rope and he ties it around on Cena, and he's like not choking him out. It was so stupid because like he wrapped it around his head, not his neck, and I'm just kind of cracking up about it. But it was kind of wild. But you could see like the audience turning on Cody when he starts using this weapon as opposed to every other weapon. And I'm like, okay, I'm still learning rules of wrestling. Apparently that's a really bad weapon to use, though I don't think it would even hurt as much as some of the other weapons that have already been used. But hey, what do I know? Anyways, it's incredible. It should have been the end. Like when Cena ends up losing and Cody gets the victory and he's in the ring and you can see there's so much going through his mind. Cena was like his hero. He looked up to him and he sees them all just kind of beaten up and shaken over in the corner of the ring. So he goes and he does that like that hero moment where he holds Cena's hand up and both of them are holding their hands up in unity. Cody's got the belt, but Cena like kind of graciously, gestures to Cody. It was really nice. And I'm just like, man, that was awesome. The whole weekend wasn't perfect. Some of the matches were a little bit sloppy. The first night was a little bit overwhelming, but here we are at the end, and they just pulled it off beautifully. Just kudos to WWE, man. They've had some missteps along the way, but they're figuring it out. And then, boom, this music starts hitting. And I don't recognize, this is after Cody's already gone. Cena's kind of soaking up the adulation of the crowd. Everybody's, thank you, Cena. And then this music hits, and I don't recognize it immediately. I didn't know what was happening. It's like, that's not The Rock's music. What's going on? And then this red light, and then this like muscular dude in a cowboy, and I'm like, that's Brock Lesnar. What's going on? I didn't even think about it at first. I'm like, that's Brock Lesnar. What's going on though? Like, that's not what I was expecting. What I was expecting is maybe the final boss to show up, but we get Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar comes out and F5s Cena and then just stares at him after the beatdown. That's the end of the event. Now there are greater implications to all of this. For those of you that are wrestling fans, I'm not telling you anything you don't know. For those of you that aren't wrestling fans, just the long and the short of it is Vince McMahon is a skeevy pervert who had a very inappropriate relationship with a woman. Bias aside, whether you think what happened was illegal or not, it was still pretty immoral and gross. And if you read, the reports, it's pretty hard to be like, oh no, that's totally legit. But, to each their own. I think what I just said is pretty objective. To each their own. Brock Lesnar was involved in the reports for this legal case that's going on against Vince McMahon. Lesnar was not named in the filing as defendant, but he was named as a participant in this thing, and he's been kind of blacklisted from WWE. They removed him as a playable character from 2K24 or 25. I don't have it in front of me, but one of the games, and they just have been very apprehensive about mentioning him by name. I saw him in his program with Cody leading up to WrestleMania 41 when he had to go through more adversity because people didn't think that he had, I guess, served enough time to be the champion. So, like, they put him in this program where Brock just beat the hell out of him a couple matches, and then Cody ended up finally emerging victorious. But obviously, he's a beast. I feel like looking at Brock Lesnar, he's like one of the few guys that you're like, oh, no, he would legit beat the shit out of everybody in that locker room. Like, people talk about show muscles or whatever. I don't know what the term they use, but basically, like, there's muscles that look aesthetically nice and they are, cut a nice frame. And then there's like bodies that are just, actually strong. And Brock Lesnar is built like just an absolute freaking tank. So yeah, he's an intimidating, big, giant man. Apparently Cena wanted to go into a program, before his retirement, and if that's not true, then damn, Triple H, you really threw your boy under the bus there, because Triple H is like, yeah, John Cena really wanted to do this, and I asked him how he wanted to go out, and he said this is what he wanted to do, so this is what we're doing. And everybody's like, what the fuck, man? You brought Brock Lesnar back? Isn't he like, people are, it varies from Brock didn't do anything wrong to Brock is a sex trafficker. My personal hot take is that neither of those things are true. My hot take is right in the middle. It's really more lukewarm when you think about it, or tepid. It's not really that hot of a take at all, but I feel like what he did was unquestionably immoral, especially if he has a wife or kids or something. If he has a wife, if he has a girlfriend, unless she's down with it, even still, it's immoral because of the nature of the relationship that Vince had with the plaintiff. I'm not saying it's good. I do think there's something to be said about culpability being kind of sprinkled around. And Brock wasn't named as a defendant. So obviously, the person who filed the case wasn't like, I want that man to suffer or to go down. The internet being what the internet is, we're all very reactionary. I mean, I'm here doing a reaction on a wrestling event right now, reacting on the fact that people are reacting to the thing. So, like, I'm not any better, but it feels like in our rush to judgment that we will often do away with nuance. It's not my place to tell people what they should think or feel. I can just say my personal opinion on it has always been there is no consumption that is completely ethical. There's no corporations that are completely ethical. There's no people that are completely ethical. I think if you scratch the surface, you will find, even in yourself, that maybe you've done some things that were regrettable. Maybe you called somebody fat ass, or I don't know, stole a piece of candy when you were a kid. I don't know, whatever it was, whatever your transgression. God knows I've had plenty of mine, right? So I try not to be super judgmental of people, but to that extent, that means if you are not willing to overlook what Brock Lesnar did, I respect that. That's your choice. I don't know what your threshold for tolerance is. But when I look at a company like WWE, I'm not like, that company is a beacon of morality, and by doing this, they have compromised their ethics. I look at WWE and I'm like, that is a bunch of carnies. Those people are insane. They're professional liars. They have to do HGH to get in the physical shape that they're in. Not all of them, a lot of them. The entire industry is incredibly unethical. It's built upon kind of low-key conning people. So I don't look at WWE in a way that I'm like, oh, I'm disappointed by them. This is the Saudi blood money company. I'm personally more in the camp of separate the art from the artist. Entertainment can still entertain me, whether or not the people responsible for making the entertainment are 100% good people or even 50% good people. Like, dude, I'm sorry. All of the Lights by Kanye still slaps. Hot take, I know. I know. But that's just me. That's my personal value system where I don't feel like by consuming things that are made by unethical people, it makes me necessarily unethical. But I also do not. Oh, what's up, Kabir? Kabir? Apologies if I said that wrong. Why are we not seeing any black wrestlers there? Um, that's a valid question, man. I mean, we did get Naomi and Jade and Bianca. Did Bianca fight? Yeah. So Naomi, Jade, and Bianca, which are like their three premier top, female women of color stars on the women's roster. And then, Montes and Angelo were in the ladder match. I say that to say there were five, which is not even. You know what I mean? It's definitely not even, but I personally don't know that it has to be even. Historically, WWE has had some really terrible race relationships. And when you look at somebody like Hulk Hogan, you're like, yeah, fuck that guy, right? I think they're doing better. I don't disagree with you. I feel like to give them the benefit of the doubt is to say it seems like we're moving in a direction where there is better representation of all sorts of groups of people. I come from a position where I'm like, look, if like 20% of America is black folks, and then like, so 5 out of every 20 wrestlers is a black person, then that's kind of representative of the broader culture. Who am I to say? You know what I mean? Like, that's just my stupid opinion on the topic. If you think there should be more, then that's 100% valid. And I do think that historically they have definitely not been they have not historically been very good racially. So yeah, a reasonable conversation to be having, absolutely. And then the public trending boycott Brock is kind of what I was touching on. And what happened is Brock was named in the Grant allegations against Vince. He wasn't named as a defendant. However, he was named as a person of interest, somebody that was involved. Basically, Vince was trying to pimp that girl out and use her as a bargaining chip so that he could bring Brock back. Like, she was part of the contractual notification or the agreements. As far as we know, Brock didn't know that she wasn't completely a willing accomplice. Maybe he did. I don't know what he knew, but the best faith argument is that Brock thought if Vince was saying that she was down, then she was down. If she said she was down, then maybe Vince believed that she was down. This is a really tricky conversation because we don't want to infantilize people. And if a grown woman says she's consenting to do things, even if they're freaky or gross, she should have the right to do that. But then also, if a woman makes allegations or makes claims and says that she felt victimized, then we should listen to them as well. So it's kind of like, it's tough as an outside observer where on one hand, I'm like, I mean, if she said she was down, then like, that's kind of what you have to go on. But then if she says, I just said I was down, but actually I was taking pills and drinking myself stupid to cope with the fact that I was going through all this pain and I didn't want to be doing it, I empathize with her. I feel for her. She could have, this is what people always say, she could have walked away, and she could have. She didn't, but she could have. So, I don't know. It's complicated, and I don't claim to have the answers to all of that stuff. I really do feel like it's okay to both sympathize with somebody, but then also say, like, I don't know that Brock broke the law. You just said SummerSlam is in Brock's hometown. It means we're retired on it. I don't know where Brock's hometown is, but I believe it. Yeah, I don't know what's in store for Brock. Some people are saying that Cena might have one last program with Brock and then Brock disappear. I don't know exactly what the contract, looked like. As far as I'm concerned, I don't particularly care if Brock Lesnar ever wrestles again. I definitely wouldn't miss him if he was gone, but I'm also not necessarily going to turn off the TV because he's on it, because again, I've felt like WWE is just unethical. Hey, what's up, Leo? How you doing? Just woke up, gotta catch you because last time I did not make it in time. I'm glad you're here too. I appreciate that. I'm talking a little bit of wrestling. I know that's not everybody's thing, but I was excited to share my thoughts on SummerSlam. Because I really enjoyed watching it, and know that somebody had mentioned the other day, like, hey, are you going to continue to talk about wrestling? So if there's one person out there that wants to hear me talk about wrestling, I can't pass up the opportunity to do so. I went and saw the movie Together over the weekend with my buddy Adam, and we ran into Holden and Jen up there. I was thinking about doing a review for that, so maybe I will be posting a video for that soon. And Raw Rock is coming. Shoot, we'll see. I hope he does. I'm going to be watching Raw tonight, which means Saturday, Sunday, Monday, back-to-back WWE wrestling. Let's go. Can't get enough of it, I guess. Can't get enough of it. The Luigi Mangione movie. That'd be fun. Together is Franco and Allison Brie. It was like a gross body horror movie, but it was also pretty good. But yeah, the Brock Lesnar of it all, it's a shame that it happened when it did, because I feel like WWE was about to close the book on a really good PLE. I thought that most of the goodwill that they had earned kind of absolved them of a lot of the lesser matches that had taken place over the last 2 days. And then right before they cut off, and now this is all anybody's talking about, Brock Lesnar, boycott WWE, boycott Brock Lesnar, John Cena, and it's like, I get it. The fact that Triple H is like, palling around with Trump. The optics are just, it's a bold move. Like, you can stay apolitical, but the second that you start showing up with the administration and doing all this stuff that is proactively engaging with a group of people, then you're going to inherently be associated with those people. And, you tell me any wealthy person, business owner is a Republican, I'm not shocked. That's not a surprise to me. But when you are cozying up to the current administration, who is a little bit more than just Republican, there's a lot of implications that are harmful to lots of groups of people, in my perspective. And if this doesn't resonate with you, that's okay. I try not to be super judgmental, but like, if you're a ride or die Trump person, I have a hard time. Oh yeah, Franco does look like Luigi Mangione. That would be a good casting. Absolutely. But yeah, I don't know that it's a good look for WWE to be so forwardly political. But that's just kind of my opinion on it. I think a lot of people are like me. We're like, as long as it's entertaining, I'll take it for what it is. I'm not turning on WWE to be like, what should I believe politically? Let's see what Triple H has to say. I'm turning on WWE so I can see big, muscly dudes smack each other around and jump off ropes and do flips, and the silly storylines and the pyrotechnics and the music and the big entrances and the celebrities and the beautiful women with their fantastic contouring and immaculate hair coming out and doing their flips and flying around and whacking each other with crowbars and cage matches and all of that stuff. And that's what it is to me. It's dumb, fun entertainment. It's not serious. Unfortunately, geopolitics are serious. sexual assault is serious. And so if you're the type of person that said, like, I can't rock with them, I would understand. Let's see. You said, what do you think? Which return is more crazy, Seth or Brock? BTE Triple H was right. He said, "Yeah, that you are you ready?" And the people said yes, but in reality, they are not ready for that that beast. Yeah, yeah. He did mention like something about a big surprise early on the show, and no, people were not ready. I think it's way crazy. I think people knew that Seth was coming back. People knew that Seth was coming back. That was like a poorly kept secret, I thought, because I'd heard other people say it. Not that I knew anything. I just going off what I heard. But with Brock, my buddy Sid, I was watching it over at a friend's house, and my buddy Sid said, Brock's about to show up. And then Brock showed up, and I looked at him afterwards, and I was like, how did you guess that? Like, I pay attention to the internet wrestling stuff. I didn't hear even any rumor about it. So I was very shocked. I don't know what he knew that I didn't know. The dude's got connections like crazy. He knows somebody who knows somebody for sure. So I was like, damn. Well, whoever's feeding you information, you need to get a job working for like, I don't know, one of those trades. Yes, the emotion in Cena's eye was absolutely real, just like the emotion in my eye is real. I want to say thank you both very. I want to say thank you both very much for being here for this conversation. Maybe you'll be watching it in post, and then in that case, thank you as well. Appreciate you stopping by for this video. I always enjoy being able to share thoughts on movies and hear from the community. I also enjoy talking about wrestling from time to time. And every once in a while, we got to swerve into politics, and social issues, and things that I know can be divisive, but at the end of the day, we're all on the same team, people. Let's remember that. I'm Jeremy, and until next time, peace.